Hello, night owls. I am Dusky Nights, and I bring you real-life horror stories that will help you sleep, or maybe keep you awake. But before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Also, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.
Ever feel like someone's watching you, even when you're alone, or like something strange is nearby? If you've had that creepy feeling, these stories will scare you. Listen closely because you might not be alone. The Gray Hills home for boys was the kind of place that made nightmares feel like a mercy. The walls were cracked, and the air always smelled damp, like rotting wood and something faintly metallic. But you learned in foster care never to complain, unless you wanted things to get worse. Here there was only one warning: Mrs. Blanche. No one really knew what she was. The older boys whispered legends. Some said she was a vampire taking the worst boys once a year as an offering. Others claimed she was a ghost, as ancient as the house itself, stealing soul through a single glance. A few swore she was just a cruel old woman you never wanted to cross. But there was one thing every single boy agreed on. If you went to the 3rd floor at exactly 4 o'clock, you would never be seen again. I was 15 when they dared me to go up there. Tommy, the oldest at nearly 18, led the charge with his lackeys, Butch and Ace. They thought I was tough enough to pass their test, survive the night, and I was one of them. I was not sure if I wanted that, but I hated backing down more. At 2:55 a.m., I crept up the staircase, each step groaning under my weight. The house felt different at night. During the day, the faded pastel walls and bright lighting almost masked the decay. But now, in darkness, it felt suffocating. The 3rd floor door was just ahead, its frame warped and splintering with age. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. Instead, I reached for the handle. The door groaned open, revealing something that should not have been there. Warm, golden light spilled from inside. A grand table stretched across the room, lined with mountains of food: roast meats, fresh bread, chocolates, steaming pies, gifts wrapped in glittering paper stacked neatly in the corners. The air smelled like cinnamon and home. It was perfect. Too perfect. I stepped forward, hesitant. The legends never mentioned this. My gaze darted back to the doorway, still open. No tricks, no shifting walls, just an eerie, unsettling quiet. At the head of the table, a single envelope rested atop a silver plate. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. Curiosity had already won. I turned on my heel and left, stuffing the letter into my pocket. The house let me go. That should have been the first warning. When I made it downstairs, everything was wrong. The halls were silent. Too silent. No distant snores, no creaking floorboards. Nothing. I called for Tommy, for anyone. No answer. Then I stepped outside, and the world I knew was gone. The dirt path leading to the home was paved over, replaced by towering glass buildings and blinding streetlights. Where the woods once loomed, highways stretched far into the horizon. Panic twisted inside me. A horn blared, and headlights swallowed my vision before everything turned black. When I woke up, they told me 100 years had passed. Gray Hills had been abandoned after World War II. My name was kept out of the news, my story locked away. After months in a hospital, they placed me back into the system, in a world that had forgotten me. I tried to move on. I really did. Until I found the letter again. One sentence scrawled in perfect cursive. Take something or she follows you there. I had taken nothing. I had left the food, the gifts, everything. A week later, I saw her, a woman standing at the corner of my room, just beyond the reach of the light. Her skin was tinged green, her hair a matted, tangled mass. She wore a dress made from something wrong, something stitched together from what I knew, deep down, was human skin. Her lips curled into an impossibly wide grin, revealing pearly white fangs. She never moves, never blinks, never speaks, but every year she gets closer. Last night, I woke up with her inches from my face, her breath cold and sweet, laced with decay. This year, she whispered something in my ear before vanishing into the dark. You should have eaten. I moved cities, burned my old clothes, changed my name, but she still found me. She always does. The first few years, she stayed to the corners, a silent shadow in the edges of my vision. Then she got bolder. I'd catch her reflection in the mirror, just behind me, grinning. Sometimes I heard the soft creak of her footsteps at night, the whisper of fabric dragging against the floor. Always, always waiting. Then, last year, the nightmares began. I dreamed of the feast again, but now the food was rotting, blackened with mold. The gifts were gone. The envelope lay open on the plate, the words shifting and bleeding together. I ran, but the room stretched, endless, consuming. She was always behind me, unseen but felt, the air thick with her breath. Every time I woke up gasping, my body felt heavier, like something had been taken from me piece by piece, and now I don't dream anymore. Last night, I woke up somewhere else. The walls were cracked, the air damp and metallic. A single candle flickered on a wooden table. The third floor. I was back. My heart pounded as I turned, and there she was standing at the head of the empty table. Her eyes gleamed with something ancient, something patient. I am hungry, she whispered, tilting her head. 100 years, and still you refuse. Her fingers twitched, too long, too thin, curling like hooks. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. My limbs felt stiff, my skin cold. I looked down, and my breath hitched. My fingers were changing, stretching, nails darkening, skin sinking. You should have eaten, she murmured, and I finally understood. The feast was never for me. It was me. Then, with a sickening crack, my jaw stretched unnaturally wide. My stomach churned with a hunger that wasn't mine, a gnawing, endless craving. I reached for the table, trembling, my body no longer my own. The scent of decay turned sweet, intoxicating, and I sat, because this time I would eat. The clock says 6:58. 2 minutes until bedtime. Daniel doesn't like when I'm late for bedtime. My thoughts are all jumbled up today. The medicine makes my head feel like it's stuffed with cotton, like someone shoved wet newspaper into my skull and let it harden there. I can hear Daniel in the kitchen. The clinking of dishes sounds like tiny bones breaking. He made spaghetti tonight. Spaghetti with meatballs. I like the meatballs. I think I've always liked meatballs, even before the accident. Sometimes it's hard to remember what I liked before. Sometimes I wake up tasting blood and can't remember why. I should get ready. Daniel doesn't like when I'm not in bed, when the clock turns to 7 o'clock. He says it makes Mr. Jacks upset, and nobody wants Mr. Jacks upset. I've never met Mr. Jacks. Daniel says he comes to our house late at night and checks on things, makes sure everything is safe. Daniel says Mr. Jacks knows what's best for us. Daniel says Mr. Jacks has plans for me. When Daniel talks about Mr. Jacks, his eyes change. They get darker, emptier, like something crawls behind them. The doctors told me I have, what did they call it? Traumatic something, brain injury, from the accident. Sometimes I can think just fine, like now. Other times I can't remember my own name. The words get stuck. The thoughts won't connect right. I get confused about what year it is, what day, where I am. Sometimes I see shadows moving in the corners of my room, shifting, watching, waiting. I used to be different. Before the pills, before the accident, I was a teacher, math teacher. High school, I taught algebra and geometry. I remember the smell of chalk and the sound of the bell. I remember Lisa, my wife, and Tommy, my first son, my boy. I remember their smiles, their laughter. I can still hear their screams sometimes, in my dreams, in the walls, when I'm alone. They're gone now. The accident, 2 years, 3. Time is slippery for me now. Daniel, Lisa's son from her first marriage, moved in after, said he'd take care of me. Said he'd help. I adopted him when he was 12 after I married Lisa. He never called me Dad, though. Always Greg. His voice always cold, clinical, like he was examining a specimen. The lock clicks from outside my bedroom door, 7 p.m. Sharp. The sound makes my skin crawl. I hear Daniel's voice through the door, muffled and wrong, like it's coming through water or meat. Good night, Greg. Did you take your evening pills? His voice sounds far away, even though he's just behind the door. Yes, I lie. The little blue and white pills are under my tongue. They taste like chemicals and dread. I'll spit them out later. I don't like how they make me feel, like I'm underwater, can't think, can't remember. On my ceiling there are terrible things. They crawl upside down. They come in from a crack above the door. Do they know Mr. Jacks? Good. Mr. Jacks will be here soon. He says you need to stay in your room tonight. All night. Don't try to come out, okay? Remember what happened last time. I do remember, sorta. Things get mixed up sometimes. I got thirsty and tried the door. It was locked. I kept pulling on it. Daniel came. He was crying, but his eyes were dry. Said Mr. Jacks was angry. Daniel had a bruise the next day, a perfect handprint wrapped around his throat. Said it was my fault, but I was locked in here all night. How could it be my fault? Okay, Daniel, I'll stay. The words feel thick in my mouth, hard to talk sometimes, like my tongue belongs to someone else. Sleep well, Greg. Mr. Jacks is looking forward to seeing you. His footsteps go away. They sound heavier than they should, like someone much larger is walking away. I sit on my bed, look around. This room is my whole world now. TV, books with big letters, water bottle, bucket for bathroom. I hate that bucket. Hate it. But Daniel says Mr. Jacks doesn't let me use the real bathroom at night. There's laughing from the living room, TV sounds, explosions, gunfire. But underneath it, something else. A wet, slithering sound, like something huge dragging itself across the floor. I think I fell asleep, my eyes open. Room is dark, just moonlight. Clock says 2:17. What woke me up? A sound. From outside my door, a scratching sound, like claws on wood. Footsteps, heavy, uneven footsteps. I try not to breathe too loud. The doorknob moves, turns, but the lock stops it. Something pushes against the door, something heavy. The wood creaks, bending inward slightly. He's sleeping, Mr. Jacks's voice just outside my door. It doesn't sound human up close. Too deep, too hollow, like it's coming from the bottom of a well filled with mud and teeth. Should be. The risperidone and lorazepam knock him out pretty good. Daniel sounds tired, afraid. Good. I brought the papers. Once we get him declared legally incompetent, we can access the insurance money, the house, too. Insurance. Money. My brain feels foggy, but something about this feels important. Wrong. How much longer will this take? Daniel asks. His voice trembles. Not long now. His condition is getting worse, just as we planned. Those pills I gave you are working perfectly. The brain damage from the accident gives us a good cover, but these medications will make him a complete vegetable soon. And then he's mine. All mine. My stomach hurts. Pills? They're making me worse on purpose? And what does he mean? I'll be his? I don't know. Sometimes he seems okay. Like today, he remembered it was Friday spaghetti night without me reminding him. There's a sound, wet, meaty, like someone got hit with something heavy. Then, something strange happens. I hear shuffling, and Daniel's voice changes, gets deeper, becomes Mr. Jax's voice. "Don't get soft now," the deeper voice says. It echoes strangely, like it's coming from everywhere and nowhere. Then normal Daniel voice, whimpering, "No, sir. My brain is slow, but this is important." That second voice, it came from Daniel, not from someone else. There is no Sir Jax. It's Daniel. Just Daniel, talking to himself, making a different voice. But then, who made that scratching sound? Who pushed against the door? Why does the house creak at night, like something huge is moving through it? The medicine fog tries to pull me under, but I fight it, fight to understand. The moonlight helps me think, helps me remember. I remember the insurance, big policy on Lisa and Tommy. Got money when they died. And there's more money if I die. The mortgage insurance, my retirement money from teaching, my pension. Daniel can get it all if I'm declared incompetent, if I can't take care of myself. A thought comes, clear as a bell. Did Daniel cut the brake lines? Did he kill Lisa and Tommy on purpose? Was it part of his plan? First them, now me. I look around my room. Not a bedroom, a cell, a cage, a place of preparation. I have until morning to figure something out. My brain still works sometimes, when the medicine wears off, when the moon is bright, because now I know part of the truth about Mr. Jax. He's not real. He's a voice in Daniel's head, or maybe Mr. Jax is real. I know there's something else here too. Something that comes in the night. Something Daniel is afraid of. Something he's working for. Something that wants me. My tongue feels the pills I hid there. I spit them into my hand, hold them tight. I notice something on the wall I didn't see before, scratched into the paint with fingernails. Words in Lisa's handwriting. He's not Daniel anymore. When 7:00 a.m. comes, I'll be ready. I might be damaged, might be slow, but I'm not stupid. But I wonder, what do I need to do to get Mr. Jax to let me leave? Mr. Jax, he is it, the one who scratches at my door at night, the one who makes the house groan, the one who waits in the dark with patience that feels ancient and hungry. Not anymore. I can stand up to Mr. Jax. Update. It's nearly 7 a.m. I can hear movement outside my door. Footsteps. Too many footsteps for one person. I've been up all night. Found more writing hidden in this room. Under the carpet. Behind the dresser. Lisa and Tommy were trying to warn me. Daniel isn't Daniel. Hasn't been for years. Something else wears him now. Something old. Something patient. Something that's been collecting our family one by one. My son Tommy left behind a drawing of Mr. Jax. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The door is opening now. Time to find out what Mr. Jax really looks like. It began with a notification, one that should have been impossible. Emily had just posted a new photo. My breath caught in my throat. Emily had been dead for 6 months. My hands trembled as I tapped the screen, a sinking dread spreading through my chest. The image was a shot of my apartment building taken from the street. My bedroom window was visible in the frame. The caption read, "I see you." A cold sweat broke out across my skin. It had to be some kind of cruel joke, someone hacking her account to mess with me. I called her parents, desperate for an explanation, but they swore they hadn't touched her social media since the funeral. Her phone had been buried with her. I blocked the account, reported it, tried to forget. But the posts did not stop. A week later, another picture appeared. This time, a shot of my car in the grocery store parking lot. The caption made my stomach tighten into knots. "You forgot the milk." I had forgotten the milk. I stood frozen in place, my phone gripped so tightly my knuckles turned white. Someone was watching me, following me. But who? And how were they using Emily's account? I attempted to log in, to take control of the situation, but her password had been changed. When I reached out to customer support, their response chilled me to the bone. This account was accessed from a device last used 6 months ago, the last time Emily was alive. That night, sleep refused to come. I locked my doors, closed my blinds, silenced my phone. But at exactly 3 a.m., my screen lit up again. Emily was live. My pulse pounded in my ears as my thumb hovered over the notification. I should not have clicked it, but I did. The screen was nearly black, faint movement distorting the image. My eyes adjusted, and I made out something. Wooden walls, the soft press of damp earth. Then a sound, ragged, desperate breathing. A whisper cut through the static. The voice, unmistakably Emily's. "Let me out." I dropped my phone like it burned me. My entire body trembled. The next morning I drove straight to the cemetery, heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't know what I expected to find, but her grave was undisturbed, the dirt settled and firm. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe grief had twisted reality into something unrecognizable. But just as I turned to leave, my phone vibrated again. A new notification. One more picture. It was me, standing at her grave. The caption sent a bolt of fear through my spine. Almost there, I ran. I checked into a cheap motel, convinced that putting distance between myself and my apartment would stop the messages, but the posts followed me. Each night, at exactly 3 a.m., a new update appeared. Some were pictures of places I had been that day. Others were messages that made my skin crawl. "It is cold down here. Why did you leave me? He won't let me out." I stopped reading them, stopped sleeping. My friends told me to see a doctor, but deep down I knew this was not just in my head. Someone, or something, was watching me. Then, last night, she posted another video. This time the camera shook violently, as if something was struggling, fighting to break free. The darkness pulsed on the screen, paired with frantic breathing, and then the sound. Scraping, digging. Emily's voice, choked with panic, sobbing. "Please, I do not want to be here anymore." My body went rigid, a sick feeling blooming in my gut. Something shifted in the background of the video. A deep, rattling breath, and then a second voice. One that was not Emily's. Almost time. The screen went black. I could not take it anymore. I needed to know the truth. I grabbed a shovel and drove back to the cemetery, my hands slick with sweat. The air felt thick, pressing down on me like something unseen was watching, waiting. I found her grave, my breathing shallow as I began to dig. The soil was damp, heavy beneath my frantic movements. Every second felt stretched too thin, like something was waiting for me to stop. Then, with a dull thud, my shovel hit wood. My stomach twisted as I brushed away the dirt, revealing the coffin's surface, splintered, cracked from the inside. My shaking fingers pried it open, empty. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I barely had the strength to look, but my trembling hands lifted the screen. Live now. Emily. The feed was dark, silent. Then, breathing, slow, ragged. My lungs locked, dread settling like lead in my bones. And then, a whisper so close, I swore I could feel it against my ear. "He let me out." A sound rustled in the trees behind me. The hairs on the back of my neck rose. My heart slammed into my ribs. And then the live stream ended. What would you do if the dead came back and they were looking for you? If this story sent shivers down your spine, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more terrifying tales. And tell me in the comments, would you have answered that live stream, or would you have run before it was too late? The air feels thick and icy. It's so quiet, it's scary. You feel like someone's there. Even when you're by yourself, something is watching you, waiting for you. And it won't stop until it gets you. Listen carefully. What you're about to hear might just make you question everything around you. I had just moved into a new apartment. It was one of those old buildings that seemed to have a history, with creaky floors and narrow hallways that gave it a certain charm. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Well, mine for now. I was excited, or at least I was until I started unpacking. The place had a dusty, forgotten feel to it, but I didn't mind. The whole fresh start thing was comforting. It felt like a step in the right direction after all the mess my life had been lately. It was late in the evening when I found it. I had just finished unloading a few boxes when I noticed something odd. One of the floorboards near the closet seemed off, loose, like it hadn't been nailed down properly. My curiosity got the best of me. I kneeled down, pulling at the edge of the board until it came free with a soft creak. As I peered inside the small space, I saw something. A yellowed scrap of paper shoved deep beneath the floor. I picked it up. The paper was old, fragile. So much so, that it felt like it might crumble in my hands. The writing on it was jagged and uneven, like someone had written it in a panic. The ink had bled through in places, and it was nearly torn apart in spots, but I could still make out the words. If you hear crying from the walls, do not investigate. It's not a child. It remembers faces. I paused. My first thought was that it was some prank, maybe from the previous tenant, a goth kid's idea of a joke. I chuckled, crumpled the note up, and tossed it into the trash. Big mistake. It was only a few nights later that I began to regret my actions. I was exhausted, lying in bed, hoping to get some sleep after a long day of moving, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find peace. The room felt wrong. At first, I thought I was imagining things, that maybe the apartment was just a little too silent for my liking. But then I heard it, crying. It was faint, barely audible, but it was there, muffled, coming from deep inside the walls. A soft, desperate sobbing, like the sound of a child in pain. I sat up in bed, straining to listen. My first thought was that it was just the pipes. Old building, old plumbing, or maybe a neighbor's kid crying. But no, I pressed my ear to the wall. The crying continued, but it didn't sound like it was coming from the pipes or another apartment. It sounded like it was coming from inside the very walls themselves. My heart raced. I pulled away from the wall, and for a moment, everything went silent. Then, so close, I heard a voice. It was low, hoarse, like a whispering hiss. I see you too. I froze. My blood ran cold. My room was completely still, the air heavy, thick. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. What the hell was that? The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was like I wasn't alone in the apartment anymore. It was as if something, someone, was watching me, waiting. I decided to go talk to the building's super. Surely he could give me some kind of answer. I tried to sound casual as I asked, "Do you know if there are any kids in the building?" I didn't want to come off as crazy. The super's expression froze. His face tightened. His eyes narrowed. "No," he said, his voice clipped. "Why?" I told him about the crying, tried to explain it in a way that didn't sound insane, but the moment I mentioned it, I saw the change in his face, the way his hand shook just slightly as he set down his coffee cup. The rattling sound of the saucer sent a chill down my spine. He was hiding something. The unit was empty for a long time, after Ms. Lasky, he muttered, his eyes shifting nervously. She kept complaining about strange noises before she transferred. Transferred? I asked, raising an eyebrow. What happened to her? He tapped his temple, a vague, unsettling gesture, before walking away without another word. He left me standing there, confused and more than a little unnerved. Transferred. What did that mean? I didn't get it, but I felt the heavy weight of something dark hanging over me. Things didn't get better. The crying got louder, closer. It started coming from different places. First the walls, then behind my headboard. It was getting impossible to ignore. The last straw came one night when the sound was right behind me. I was lying in bed, trying to get some sleep, when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of tiny fingernails scraping against the plaster. It was so close, so disturbingly near my skull that I could almost feel the touch. And then, from the same spot, right behind my headboard, a whisper, "You looked. Now I know your face." I jumped out of bed, heart pounding in my chest. I spun around, the room empty, but the air was thick, like something invisible was pressing down on me. I was hyper-aware of every sound, every creak, every breath I took. The closet door groaned open by itself, as if beckoning me to look inside. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I ran out of the room. The following day, I decided to pry up the floorboard again. I had to know more. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find. But when I looked beneath the board, I wasn't prepared for what I found. The note was still there, but this time there was something else. A photograph, a Polaroid, a woman standing in the same room. Her face was smiling, almost serene, but the eyes were scratched out viciously, like someone had clawed at them with their nails. The back of the photo read, "It takes the eyes first." I stared at the photo for what felt like forever. It didn't make sense. I didn't understand, but whatever it was, I was now tangled in it. I couldn't escape. That night, I didn't sleep. The crying had moved closer. Now it wasn't just from the walls or behind the headboard. It was everywhere. And in the silence between the sobs, I heard that voice again. "Your eyes work better than hers did." I jumped up, turning around, but the room was empty, still, silent. The air felt wrong. It was as if something was about to happen. I ran out of the room, my mind racing. I needed answers, but how could I even begin to understand what was happening? I spent the next few days researching. I dug into the history of the building. I found no trace of Miss Lasky anywhere, no missing persons report, nothing. It was like she didn't exist. But then I stumbled across something else, something that made my stomach drop. A news article from 1998. A fire in the building. A little girl trapped behind a wall, wedged in an old dumbwaiter shaft. The fire department found her too late. But there was one haunting detail in the article. She was found with her hands over her eyes. The crying began again, 3:07 a.m., right on schedule. The voice whispered once more, "Your eyes work better than hers did." I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around, but nothing was there. I could feel the presence closing in. The closet door creaked open again. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was real anymore. I ran. I packed up everything I could and left. Now I'm writing this from a motel. The crying followed me here. It's 2:56 a.m., and I know in a few minutes I'll hear it again. I've tried everything. TV on full blast, locks triple checked. But it doesn't matter. The sound is always there. I keep seeing things in the mirror, shadows in the corners, and my reflection. It doesn't have any eyes. I don't know what it wants, but I think I understand now. It doesn't need the apartment. It doesn't need the walls. It needs someone to see it, and I think I know why. Because it remembers faces. I just hope it doesn't remember mine. The night air was thick with the scent of damp earth as Ethan stepped into the abandoned asylum. The rotting floorboards groaned under his weight, and the dim glow of his flashlight barely pierced the suffocating darkness. He had heard the stories, whispers of vanished trespassers, unsettling screams that slithered through the air like ghostly echoes. But curiosity gnawed at him more than fear. He had to see for himself. The walls were streaked with age-old grime, and faded murals of long-forgotten patients stared at him with hollow eyes. The place reeked of mildew and decay, yet something else lingered in the air, something foul, something unnatural. As he ventured deeper, the silence became deafening. His footsteps, once steady, now wavered, swallowed by the oppressive quiet. Then came the sound, a faint, rhythmic tapping. His breath hitched. It wasn't random. It was calculated, deliberate. The flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment of darkness, he swore he saw movement in the hallway ahead, a shifting shadow just at the edge of his vision. His pulse pounded as he pressed forward, gripping the flashlight as if it could shield him from whatever lurked beyond. A door stood ajar at the end of the corridor. A single, rusted plaque hung above it, its lettering barely legible. Ward C. Restricted access. Ethan hesitated, the chill in the air thickening around him. His instincts screamed at him to turn back, but his hand moved against reason, pushing the door open with a slow creak. The room inside was a grotesque display of the past. Metal bed frames lined up like skeletons, straps still attached, as if waiting for patients that would never return. The walls were covered in frantic scratches, desperate pleas carved into the peeling paint. "Don't look at her." The words sent an icy shudder down his spine. A sudden gust slammed the door shut behind him. He whirled around, heart hammering, but the hallway was gone. The door vanished. In its place was another room, identical, but wrong. The beds were filled now, bodies wrapped in decayed sheets, their skeletal fingers peeking out from beneath the fabric. And then he heard it, a breath, not his own. Slow, ragged inhalations creeping closer. His flashlight flickered again, revealing a figure standing in the farthest corner. A woman, unnaturally tall, draped in tattered hospital gowns that hung from her emaciated frame. Her head twitched, jerking unnaturally, as though straining against invisible restraints. Ethan stumbled back, his mind screaming for him to run, But his legs betrayed him. The woman took a step forward, and with that single motion, the temperature in the room plummeted. Her eyes, black pits of endless void, locked onto his. A guttural voice slithered from her lips, layered with whispers that did not belong to this world. "You see me now." The light in his hand died completely. The darkness swallowed him whole. A sickening sound cracked through the silence. Bones snapping, joints contorting. Ethan fumbled for his phone, desperate for any light, any connection to the world outside this nightmare. His screen glowed for only a second before flickering out. But in that instant, she was there, inches from his face. The scent of rotting flesh curled into his nostrils, her breath like death itself. He could feel her fingers grazing his skin, cold and brittle like ancient porcelain. With a choked scream, he staggered backward, colliding with something solid, a mirror. His own reflection stared back at him, wide-eyed and shaking, but behind him the woman was grinning. A jagged, unnatural smile stretching too far across her face. Her fingers reached out, but in the glass, they were no longer fingers, they were tendrils, writhing and twisting, curling around his throat. He clawed at his own neck, gasping, but there was nothing there, nothing he could touch. Only the suffocating force closing in. Darkness pulled at the edges of his vision, his body growing limp as an unseen weight bore down on him. His reflection began to change, his eyes sinking into hollow pits, his skin growing gaunt and gray. The room around him started to dissolve, the asylum walls melting into shadows. His screams were muffled, absorbed into the endless abyss. The whispers returned, chanting in an ancient tongue, seeping into his mind like a poison he could not escape. The next morning the asylum stood silent once more. The air carried no trace of Ethan's presence, only the lingering echoes of something watching. Another visitor lost to the void, another name whispered in the darkness, and in the depths of the abandoned asylum, a single mirror remained, its surface warped, an eerie smile frozen within the glass, waiting. You can call me James. I live in a small town, own a 2-story house, have 2 dogs, a girlfriend, and many hobbies. I do carpentry, work as an electrician, and enjoy audio systems. I've built my life here over 15 years, recently turning 32. This story isn't about who I am, but about something that happened. Years ago, I left my hometown, cutting ties with old friends. I needed to build a life where I could make my own choices, free from the past. I rarely discuss it, but before James, I was Julie. Yes, I'm trans. I tried hard to be Julie, to enjoy what was expected and look the part. I even enjoyed it sometimes. But I transitioned to James, a person I love. I avoid the past, but it sometimes resurfaces. Recently, an old acquaintance from my hometown contacted me. We rarely talk, so it's usually for a reason. They shared a local news clip of a security camera segment. It showed the last sighting of a man found dead the next day. He followed an unknown woman into an alley. The police sought this woman and showed her picture. My heart sank when I saw the picture of Julie. It was me, a face I knew too well. I had left that part behind, but there it was on screen. The clothes, hair, and makeup were mine. I was losing my mind. Overnight, people I hadn't heard from in years contacted me. Some were well-meaning, others confused. Some were happy I'd returned, but nobody cared about the impossible truth. There was no Julie. Julie had been gone for years, yet she was on the news. The tipping point came when police officers questioned me. I explained my transition, showing them it was physically impossible for me to be Julie. I provided an alibi, but they remained skeptical. My crafted life was being torn apart. People whispered rumors, wondering if Julie still existed within me, making me the deviant they suspected. I decided to investigate myself, not just to clear my name, but to understand the impossible. There couldn't be a Julie, yet there was. Driving back to my conservative hometown was surreal. I'd left to reinvent myself, leaving behind a name, look, place, and people. Change is painful, even positive change. The town felt smaller, the colors faded and the trees taller. It was shrinking, with abandoned buildings and few returning residents. I was an unwilling exception. I checked into a motel and began my investigation. I asked about the news story. Some were helpful, others wary. Being seen as a stranger reaffirmed my identity. A few recognized me, but most didn't. I have few online photos, and my social media features a hermit crab. Some recognized me and the conversations turned sour. A former high school classmate made a hurtful comment about my appearance. I pushed forward, determined to find answers. After hitting dead ends, I decided to think like Julie. I went to a spot under the highway where we used to hang out. The path was overgrown, but the memory was vivid. The concrete mess and graffiti were the same. As I sat there, I knocked over a new glass bottle of a local brew, my old favorite. It was too coincidental. I returned to the motel, realizing I had to think like Julie. I remembered a rumor that Julie had a crush on a guy named Dawson. Dawson still lived nearby, married with kids. His wife's social media hinted at unhappiness, with posts about blocked numbers and persistent calls. This gave me a lead. The next day, I drove around town, listening to old songs. I considered what Julie would have done. She might have gone to trade school for cosmetology. There was a school in the next town over. I drove there at sunset. The apartment complex was near the school. I felt conflicted, but needed answers. I wandered the parking lot, noticing a retro electric moped. It seemed like something Julie would own. I decided to follow my gut. The apartment complex was unlocked. I checked the names on the doors, finding nothing familiar. I went floor to floor, listening for any clues. On the third floor, A door creaked open. I hid, hearing someone hum a familiar tune, Taylor Swift. I saw someone leave on the moped. I checked the apartment door, seeing the name Jolene, a nickname from my country phase. I found a spare key hidden nearby. I entered. The apartment was like stepping back in time. The same posters, smells, and decor. It was all my old style, but the handwriting on the post-it notes was mine. The fridge poetry magnets spelled out a strange message. Dream of you, ocean of nothing. Listen, listen, hear, old, remember, remember, nothing, J. I took a picture. I heard someone returning. I hid in the dark bathroom, feeling strange textures on the sink. I fled, returning the key. I was shaken and planned to call the police anonymously the next day. Back at the motel, I couldn't sleep. I went to the vending machine. She was there, looking like a 17-year-old version of myself. She asked why I was following her. She insisted she was Julie. She stepped closer, and I saw something wrong with her face, like a tear in the skin. She threatened me, her voice distorted. She limped away. I panicked, calling my girlfriend, who told me to go home and call the police. I checked out early the next morning, called the police with an anonymous tip, and started driving home. I stopped for gas and a sandwich. In the restroom, I saw the moped outside. The door slammed shut, and she was there. She said I couldn't leave her alone. I asked what she was. She attacked me, and I blacked out. I felt like Julie was taking over, consuming my identity. I saw her from a different perspective, an inhuman being trying to be human. She was in pain, wanting to be real. She had seen Julie in a forgotten space and tried to become her. She attacked those who said she couldn't be Julie. You're killing me, I thought. She insisted she was who she needed to be. I told her she couldn't be both Julie and James. She was frustrated, uncomfortable. I told her to go back. She refused. She attacked me again, but I told her she could have Julie. She left, and I was left alive. I told the police I was attacked. I went home to my girlfriend and dogs. I'm sure Julie is still out there, but I hope I never see her again. We don't think about what we leave behind. I hope Julie finds her own way, and I never see her again. Do you believe in haunted places? Would you dare to step inside an abandoned asylum alone? If you made it this far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more terrifying tales, and let us know in the comments what's the scariest place you've ever visited.